plot just thickened for Lil Durk. New court documents have surfaced, tying his name to yet another murder from years back. The timing couldn't be worse, as Durk's already juggling serious charges. The feds are digging deep, bringing up murders most people had long forgotten, and now they're linking them to Durk. One name making waves is Stefan Mack, who was gunned down in 2022. With this new connection, things are starting to look like a pattern, but that's not all. Another name has entered the conversation: Octavia Redmond, OTF Jam's baby mama, who met a tragic end earlier in 2024. Are these cases all connected? And how deep does Durk's involvement really run? Could this be the start of something that could dismantle everything the rapper has built? Stay locked in, because this story is only getting darker. New murder case. The tragic murder of Stefan Mack in January 2022 has taken a surprising turn, with rapper Lil Durk now being linked to the case in a way that no one expected. Mack was gunned down outside the Youth Peace Center of Roseland in Chicago. Authorities believe this wasn't some random act. It was a calculated hit executed by two gunmen who ambushed Mack as he stepped out of the center. Now, new allegations suggest Durk may have played a role in the crime. Federal documents allege that Durk offered money to those willing to take out members of Mack's gang. While these allegations are heavy, it's important to note that Durk hasn't been formally charged for Mack's murder yet. Still, the weight of these accusations has added another obstacle for the rapper and the already complex legal battle he's facing. Durk is also embroiled in another serious case in Los Angeles, where prosecutors have charged him with funding a murder-for-hire plot targeting rapper Quando Rondo. With both cases looming, Durk's legal team recently tried to secure his release on a $3.3 million bond, but the judge shut it down, citing the severity of the charges. Durk's name keeps popping up in connection with the murder of Mack, and now the feds are saying his own social media posts might be part of the story. What makes this case even more explosive is the way federal investigators are linking Durk to the aftermath of Mack's death, pointing to cryptic Instagram posts and song lyrics as evidence. Not long after the shooting, Lil Durk shared an Instagram story that raised eyebrows. The post showed an image of OTF, his crew only the family. The timing and tone of the post have led investigators to believe it was a thinly veiled celebration of Mack's murder. And it didn't stop there. Durk dropped a song just a month later, "Aha," that's now under the feds' microscope for potentially referencing Mack's death. The lyrics, they say, carry hints about what went down, even though Durk has never directly admitted any involvement. The feds aren't just relying on social media and music. Court documents reveal investigators dug through phone records, firearm purchases, and text messages to build their case. One text message, found on the phone of a suspect tied to Mack's murder, allegedly asked, "Did Durk give you that money?" suggesting a payment for the hit. For those not familiar, the Gangster Disciples are one of Chicago's most infamous street and prison gangs, with deep roots and a history of violent rivalries, particularly with the Black Disciples. Mack was reportedly tied to a Gangster Disciples faction known as Smashville, a group said to have been involved in ongoing feuds with Durk's OTF camp. As of now, Lil Durk remains in custody, with federal charges piling up and new details emerging in court. Whether the evidence against him holds up or not, the use of his social media and music as part of the federal case shows how fame doesn't always shield you from the past. Why would Durk risk it all to orchestrate such a bold, high-profile move? Word on the streets is that it ties back to the tragic loss of his brother, a moment that reportedly set him off on a relentless quest for vengeance. The tragic murder of Durk's brother, Dante Banks Jr., better known as DT Thang, sent shockwaves through the streets of Chicago and the music world. On June 6, 2021, D Thang was shot outside Club O, a nightclub in Harvey, Illinois. The shooting happened late on a Saturday night, just after 12:20 a.m. Reports say there had been tension in the air. A Harvey police officer patrolling the area had spotted someone with a gun before things escalated. Outside the club, an altercation broke out. In the chaos, shots rang out and D-Thang was hit in the head. Adding to the mayhem, Officer Muhammad was also injured during the gunfire, though it's unclear who shot him. The violence didn't stop there. Just hours later, another shooting occurred on West 155th Street, leaving another dead in what police believed could have been a retaliatory hit. The loss hit Durk hard, and the streets quickly started buzzing with rumors about retaliation and what it would mean for the already intense gang feuds in Chicago. For Durk, DT Thang was a pillar of his life and career, a key figure in his Only the Family movement. Losing him was personal, and the streets don't forget. And when D-Thang was killed, whispers began about how the rapper would respond. This tragedy was the kind that demanded payback in the world Durk came from. Fast forward to January 7th, 2022, when Mack was ambushed and gunned down. Investigators say Mack's murder was anything but random. According to federal documents, it was a calculated move, a direct retaliation for DT Thang's killing. The feds allege that Durk funded Mack's assassination, orchestrating it as part of a a revenge plot against the gangster disciples who were believed to be responsible for D-Thang's death. The feud between Durk's OTF crew and factions of the gangster disciples runs deep, rooted in the long-standing gang rivalries that have shaped Chicago's streets for decades. Federal investigators claim that Durk offered money to ensure justice, street justice, for his brother. The rapper went on a warpath as he was seeking revenge for his brother's murder. The feds believe this spiraled into the murder-for-hire plot targeting Quando Rondo, a rival tied to the killing of Durk's close associate, King Von, in 2020. The tension between Durk's camp and Quando Rondo's circle only grew. By the time Quando's cousin, Xavier Robinson, was killed in 2022, the dots were already being connected. The feds claim this was part of the broader revenge plot Durk allegedly orchestrated in response to losing both King Von and D-Thang. No matter how hard Durk tries to stay ahead of the charges, they just keep piling up one after another. The real question is, can he outrun them, or are the streets finally through with him? Gang violence. Word on the street is that someone from Durk's own camp may have flipped, turning everything upside down. Reports are saying an OTF member might have been wearing a wire and feeding info straight to the feds. And the name everyone's pointing to? OTF Jam. According to court filings, Jam, a trusted member of Lil Durk's Only the Family crew, has allegedly been working with federal agents for years. This wasn't some small betrayal. This was calculated. Jam, who got out in 2022 after serving 12 years for attempted murder, is now being accused of providing key evidence that's got Durk fighting for his freedom. And it doesn't stop there. Reports suggest Jam didn't just hand over some side details, he went all in, directly tying Durk to orchestrating the plot. This wasn't the feds getting lucky. This was a carefully built case, with Jam allegedly being one of their main insiders.
Did 12 years.
12
got
years.
out, interviewed, said he kept it real, brought him cars, gave him 50,000.
Right.
This. Made mention that ain't no smut on his name. He ain't never been a rat. Caught a gun case. But eventually he flipped.
Jam's supposed betrayal had deep roots in personal and gang dynamics. It all started when Jam's baby mama reportedly reached out for legal help during her own troubles. Word is, Durk ignored the request, brushing it off, and Jam didn't take kindly to the disrespect. Soon after, whispers started circulating that Jam was wearing a wire, recording conversations and feeding critical information to the authorities about Durk and OTF.
Look into OTF Jam.
I think we looked into him already.
He's the one that ate the cheese.
No way. No way.
Even other artists seemed to see Durk's downfall coming long before it hit, and they didn't waste time capitalizing on it. FBG Butta even called out Durk's arrest nearly a year before it became reality.
Cause just like the evidence they had on Shorty and they had on Durk too, that you just paid to get your brother killed. How you not in jail?
In retaliation, Durk allegedly put a hit out on Jam's baby mama, Octavia Redmond. On July 19, 2024, Redmond was gunned down in broad daylight while delivering mail. The shooter, masked and calculated, fled the scene in a stolen car later found burned to eliminate evidence. Surveillance footage and witness statements left no doubt this was a targeted hit, not a random act of violence. The situation escalated when a 15-year-old boy was arrested in Iowa months later, tied directly to Redmond's murder. During his questioning, he reportedly named key OTF members and revealed that Durk had orchestrated the killing. Investigators pieced together a trail of burner phone records, social media exchanges, and cash transactions that led back to Durk. The murder was vengeance for the alleged snitching and a brutal reminder of what happens when someone crosses him. Despite his rise as one of hip-hop's biggest stars, the streets he came from keep pulling him back, with the feds digging into his past. Back in 2011, Durk was making moves with the Black Disciples, one of the most infamous gangs in the city. He had already felt the pressure of the streets growing up in Englewood, a neighborhood notorious for its gang culture. By the time he was in his late teens, the lines between survival, loyalty, and ambition blurred as he became tied to the gang's activities. That year, Durk got caught up in serious legal trouble when he was arrested for gun possession. Cops found him with a loaded firearm that had a defaced serial number, a charge that came with real weight. He wasn't just carrying a gun for protection. It showed authorities of the deeper ties Durk had with the Black Disciples. A gun with a defaced serial number is street level 101 for keeping weapons untraceable, a tactic gangs use to avoid linking crimes back to them. For Durk, this arrest was just the beginning. Durk did a short stint in jail for that charge, but the situation revealed the tug of war in his life at the time. On one side, he was a young father trying to figure out a path forward, while on the other, he was a product of his environment, caught in a cycle of street loyalty and gang codes. The 2011 arrest marked the start of a long trail of legal issues that would follow Durk into his rise as a rap star. By the time he began making a name for himself in music, his lyrics were filled with the realities of of street life, coded messages, raw experiences, and undeniable nods to the gang lifestyle he was living. Tracks that dropped later would serve as snapshots of that life, painting vivid pictures of the dangers and decisions he faced. But that arrest made headlines. It was the moment where Durk's street persona started merging with his budding music career. His ties to the Black Disciples brought him both street credibility and constant scrutiny. While the rap world embraced his authenticity, law enforcement kept tabs, seeing his moves as more than just artistry. It's the same reputation that keeps haunting him today, with prosecutors and investigators quick to pull up his past ties to paint him as more than just a rapper. Even as he ascended to rap stardom, the shadow of his 2011 arrest and gang ties never really left him. That gun charge might feel like ancient history now, but it set the stage for everything that's followed, both the fame and the trouble. Then in 2013, Lil Durk found himself in some serious heat again. By this point, Durk was already making a name in the Chicago rap scene. Early one morning around 3 a.m., Durk was in the Englewood neighborhood, a spot that had seen its fair share of gang activity and street drama. When police rolled up to investigate a report of a man with a gun, they caught Durk red-handed, or at least they thought they did. The story goes that as soon as the cops pulled up, Durk tossed a loaded .40 caliber handgun into a nearby car, trying to play it smooth, but the move didn't go unnoticed. The police recovered the weapon, and Durk was hit with a charge of unlawful use of a weapon by a felon. This was a serious offense, especially since Durk already had a criminal record from his 2011 arrest for gun possession. That earlier charge involved a firearm with a defaced serial number, and while he managed to plead it down to a lesser offense, it still marked him as someone the system had its eyes on. Durk's 2013 arrest highlighted the tension in his life at the time. He was a rising star in rap, closely associated with Chief Keef and the growing drill scene, but he was also deeply tied to Chicago's gang culture. What made this arrest even more significant was how it positioned Durk in the eyes of both the streets and law enforcement. To his fans and crew, it cemented his street credibility. To the police, it reinforced the narrative that he wasn't just a rapper. He was a product of Chicago's gang culture, someone who wasn't above the violence and chaos that plagued the city. Durk ended up spending some time locked up after this charge. It wasn't his first time behind bars, and it wouldn't be his last, but it was a wake-up call in many ways. The arrest put a pause on his budding career and forced him to reckon with the choices he was making. His history with gang violence isn't helping his case, and paints him as a repeat offender of violent crimes, even as he tries to soften his public image, fighting against a life behind bars. In August 2024, Lil Durk flipped the narrative on what people thought they knew about him. He appeared on Instagram, looking more grounded than ever, and expressed a desire to be seen differently. He conveyed that he didn't want to be labeled as anything other than a man, a father, and someone fully committed to his Muslim faith. It wasn't just a casual statement. It came across as a shift in energy, a declaration that he was trying to distance himself from the gang life that had been shadowing him for years. Durk took it further in his Instagram story, saying that he doesn't gangbang since he's a Muslim. He didn't just want this to be a personal move. He called on his followers to see this as his new chapter in life. Durk emphasized that one cannot claim the streets while walking a path of faith, making it clear that the two are incompatible. It was an honest and reflective moment, one that revealed his growth and accountability. He clarified that while his music would still reflect the life he had lived, it wasn't about glorifying gang ties or violence. Instead, his focus was on becoming a better man for himself, his family, and his fans. This shift wasn't an overnight realization. Durk had been publicly Muslim since 2020, but the losses and chaos he had faced in recent years seemed to have hit differently. Losing his close friend King Von and his brother DT Thang to gun violence deeply affected him. He had been mourning their deaths and recognizing how much that street energy continued to pull him into a cycle of pain. On top of that, his own health challenges forced him to slow down and prioritize what truly mattered. Earlier in 2024, Durk spoke about his time in rehab. While he didn't share every detail, his message was clear. He had battled substance abuse and made the decision to clean up both physically and mentally. He expressed that the experience had been transformative for him, helping him significantly. For Durk, rehab wasn't something to hide or feel ashamed of. It was a vital part of his journey toward peace. His main focus now was on his family, staying out of trouble, and creating a positive ripple effect. He was determined to break free from destructive cycles and stay on track for good. What makes this shift hit harder is knowing how embedded Durk was in the street culture he's now distancing himself from. It's not easy to break away from a life that shaped you, especially when your music and image have been tied to it. By sharing his faith and his new direction, Durk is trying to soften his image by setting an example. For a rapper so heavily associated with the streets, this kind of pivot isn't just brave, it's monumental. It's him saying he's done being a product of his environment and is ready to be a leader not just for his fans, but for anyone stuck in the same cycles he's worked to escape. But the fallout came quick and heavy for Lil Durk after his arrest in Florida. Just days after being honored by the village of Broadview with an honorary key for his charitable work, the rapper's name got scrubbed from the books. The mayor didn't hold back, saying the move wasn't just about about legal guilt, but about reflecting the values of their community. Durk's nonprofit, Neighborhood Heroes, also got the axe in what feels like a public severing of ties between the rapper and the village. It wasn't supposed to go down like this. Back on October 18th, Durk was celebrated for the work his Neighborhood Heroes Foundation had done to uplift local youth and communities in need. The foundation had been a shining example of Durk giving back, showing a side of him that rarely made the headlines. From scholarships to mentorship programs, Durk's organization seemed like proof he was trying to balance the scales, giving hope to the same streets he once rapped about surviving. Then the news broke, and Durk's arrest in the Quando Rondo case flipped the narrative overnight. Broadview's mayor, Katrina Thompson, wasted no time issuing a statement that struck a heavy blow to Durk's redemption arc. She stated that the court of public opinion among residents held even higher moral and ethical standards of behavior. In her written statement, she made it clear that Broadview's association with Durk no longer aligned with its values. The honorary key was revoked, and the partnership with Neighborhood Heroes was terminated. This wasn't just about managing bad press. It was about safeguarding the image of the village and preserving what the key symbolized: trust, integrity, and leadership. The mayor framed her decision as a responsibility to the residents, explaining that protecting Broadview's interests and upholding the community's values was her top priority. In essence, the village couldn't allow Durk's mounting legal troubles to overshadow the positive strides it was trying to achieve. For Durk, the timing couldn't have been worse. His work with Neighborhood Heroes had been one of the few ways he was actively distancing himself from the street life and the controversies that have followed him for years. From donating to local schools to supporting at-risk youth, the foundation was Durk's way of rewriting his story, showing he could be a force for good. Losing that partnership doesn't just hurt his public image, it shakes the foundation of his efforts to bridge the gap between his past and the better future he's been trying to build. For fans and critics alike, this fallout raises bigger questions about whether someone like Durk can ever fully escape the shadow of their past. Can a man who's come up through the trenches, seen and done things most people can't even imagine, ever be fully accepted when they try to turn it all around? Or is the weight of their history always waiting to pull them back down the moment something goes left? As of now, Durk sits in Florida's Broward County Jail, facing some of the heaviest charges of his life. While he hasn't been found guilty of anything yet, the damage to his reputation is already hitting hard. The fallout from Lily. Durk's legal troubles hit another level when Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson stepped in and revoked the rapper's honorary key to the city. The move came just days after Durk's arrest in Florida on murder-for-hire charges, and the public condemnation didn't stop there. Mayor Johnson issued a sharp statement that not only stripped Durk of the symbolic honor, but also sent a clear message about what the city stands for. Durk had received the key as recognition for his philanthropy and work with his nonprofit, the Neighborhood Heroes Foundation. It was meant to symbolize how far he'd come. A kid from the streets of Englewood turned one of Chicago's biggest stars, giving back to the very communities he grew up in. But as soon as the allegations surfaced, that narrative crumbled. For the mayor and city officials, keeping Durk as a public figure representing Chicago became untenable. In a public statement, Mayor Johnson made his stance unequivocally clear. He asserted that while everyone is entitled to the presumption of innocence in a court of law, the city of Chicago holds its representatives to the highest standards. He explained that the allegations against Durk, whose legal name is Mr. Banks, do not align with the values the city strives to uphold. As a result, the city made the decision to revoke the honorary key previously awarded to him. The mayor emphasized the importance of maintaining the trust and respect of Chicago's residents by standing firm against actions that tarnish the community. The statement went beyond revoking the key. It sent a strong message about the city's priorities. Mayor Johnson underscored that the key to the city represents more than just a ceremonial gesture. It is a symbol of leadership, integrity, and positive influence. He clarified that the decision to rescind the honor was not made lightly, but was deemed necessary to protect the image and principles of the city. The timing couldn't have been worse for Durk. Just weeks ago, he was being celebrated for his contributions to Chicago through Neighborhood Heroes. The foundation has funded scholarships, youth programs, and even grocery giveaways in underserved areas. For a moment, it seemed like Durk had successfully shifted the focus from his troubled past to his efforts to inspire change. But with the arrest and the subsequent allegations, including claims that he tried to flee the country, the goodwill he built quickly evaporated. Critics of the decision argue that the city was too quick to distance itself, given that Durk has not been convicted. Supporters of the mayor's move, however, say it was a necessary step to uphold Chicago's reputation. The backlash from residents and on social media was swift, with many questioning why Durk was given the key in the first place, given his long history of legal issues and alleged gang affiliations. While his music and philanthropy have made significant impacts, moments like this underscore how difficult it is for public figures to escape their history, especially when it continues to catch up with them in real time. Lil Durk's legal team is gearing up for the fight of their lives as they prepare to battle mounting murder-for-hire charges that could dismantle the rapper's career and personal freedom. Facing allegations that tie him to a violent revenge plot against Quando Rondo and his his crew, Durk's lawyers have their work cut out for them. But as the evidence piles up, the case is becoming harder to defend, and Durk could be facing a life behind bars. Prosecutors are painting the OTF crew not as a music label, but as a criminal enterprise, and could possibly charge him with a RICO case. Way before all this went down, 50 had already seen the writing on the wall and tried to put Durk on game about the potential pitfalls of the people around him. In an interview on The Breakfast Club, 50 Cent recounted a conversation he had with Lil Durk during their time together in New York. He described asking Durk if the crew with him was really as authentic as they appeared. He even advised Durk to be cautious and keep an eye on them, saying he was concerned about how quick loyalty in the streets could shift. Durk seemed to take the warning to heart, reflecting on an unsettling experience. 50 shared that Durk mentioned an incident where someone had shown up at his house unexpectedly. Durk questioned how anyone could have obtained his address, as it was supposed to be confidential. This interaction suggested that Durk wasn't totally dismissive of 50's caution. He was already beginning to scrutinize the trustworthiness of those in his circle. Fast forward to now, and Durk's legal troubles have cast a massive spotlight on his inner circle. The rapper was arrested on charges of murder for hire and conspiracy tied to the 2022 shooting of Quando Rondo's cousin, Lil Pab, in what authorities allege was retaliation for the death of King Von. Along with Durk, 5 other OTF members were detained, raising even more questions about the role his crew might have played. Hip-hop commentator DJ Academic stirred the pot by sharing a photo of OTF member Jam allegedly in an interrogation room eating McDonald's, an image that sent social media into a frenzy with speculation about snitching. With federal investigators citing everything from text messages to financial records, Durk's defense team has a mountain of evidence to dismantle. In court filings, prosecutors claim Durk's actions weren't just about business. They allege the hit was deeply personal. They've pointed to King Von's death in 2020 as the catalyst, claiming that Durk was out for blood after losing his close friend in a violent altercation tied to Rondo's camp. The federal case against him doesn't just stop at allegations of financing the attack. Authorities are weaving a narrative that Durk is the architect of a violent network operating under the guise of a music collective. This framing makes the legal battle even harder to fight. Durk's lawyers are doing everything they can to separate the man from the image. They're saying his music and street-hardened persona don't define who he really is. The defense is planning to push back hard on the evidence, questioning how things like money transfers or vague text messages can actually prove he intended to commit murder.
Today, Lil Durk appeared in court where a judge ruled there was enough evidence for him to go to trial.
They're also pointing out how Durk's fame makes him an easy target, especially with the kind of scrutiny he's dealt with because of his controversial past. But even with all that effort, it's not looking good. Prosecutors are coming heavy with what they say is digital evidence, alleged messages between Durk and his OTF crew about flights, money, and planning. If that stuff holds up, it could be a major blow, making it harder for his team to argue that he's being unfairly accused. And with federal cases like this, the conviction rate is no joke. This isn't just about whether Durk goes to prison, it's about his whole legacy. He spent the last few years working to clean up his image, moving from street ties to doing good through his Neighborhood Heroes Foundation. He's put money into underserved communities, backed youth programs, and tried to show he could be a positive role model. But now, all of that is being overshadowed by these charges. Even before a trial starts, the fallout is real. Partnerships with his nonprofit have been dropped, awards taken back, and public support is starting to waver. For Durk's fans, this is a bitter pill to swallow. Many have stood by him through previous legal troubles, believing in his transformation and his message of perseverance. But as the charges grow more serious, even his most loyal supporters are questioning whether the man behind the mic is truly separate from the life he's worked so hard to leave behind. In the courtroom, his legal team faces an uphill battle. They'll need to not only poke holes in the prosecution's evidence, but also combat the public narrative that paints Durk as a puppet master pulling strings behind the scenes. As the trial looms, the pressure is mounting. Durk's freedom, his career, and his legacy hang in the balance. For a rapper who's built his name on surviving against the odds, this may be his toughest battle yet. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the videos on your screen to dive into more content from our channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more.